Today we're having a little look at a hole in the wall, that little one there, and it's been caused by a door. The actual knob itself has gone through, so there's been no door stop, so I've got to put a door stop in and obviously repair this hole as well. So first thing I'll be doing is have a bit of a look, and I've already checked there's no wires inside, so when I cut out the hole don't electrocute myself. So the next thing we need to do is grab our plasterboard. Now it's roughly 100 by 100. I know that that line is a fraction over 100 for the actual handle itself, so I'll just score a little line, draw one. Same going the other way. I've got the tripod in the way. I'll just move the tripod a fraction. So that's approximately 100 by 100 right there. And this is what I'll be using to repair the hole in the wall that was made by the doorknob. I've already measured the drywall itself, and I've cut out a 100 by 100 there. We've got something to push the filler into the actual hole, which I'm using Spakfilla by Sally's. This is a non-shrinking one. It's pre-mixed. You can actually mix your own if you like, if you want to do plaster. I'm using electric screwdriver. I like using this one because it doesn't go as strong perhaps as the normal drill type screwdriver, and I've got a bit more control over it. Panel saw, a couple of bits of wood, plasterboard screws, and we've got here a bit of tape. Now the tape is optional. It's something that I may or may not use on this one, and I've got a larger spreader over here, and that's basically all you need, and a couple of pieces of wood I got here, and that's pretty well it. Let's get stuck into it. Now I've got my little piece that I've already measured. We just sort of roughly stick it over there. Really doesn't matter how it goes, it's not important. Shape doesn't have to be square, it can be anything you like. It can be round, heart shape, whatever. It's not important. All that matters is we need to cut the hole out. I've got my little panel saw, and away we go. It's basically pick a little hole and force it in. And as I've already said, I've checked in behind here for electrical. I don't really like the idea of knocking myself off for the sake of a video. These little panel saws are really good. They're not expensive, well worth buying. But if you haven't got one on hand, you can always use, like I did in the other video, which is just a knife, utility knife. And that's it. And we just grab a piece of wood. It's just got to be longer than the actual hole itself, and we'll pop it in place and screw it in position. I'm just going to put a little hole in here to start that up and make it a bit easier for me. Stick in my piece of wood on the other side and make certain we're about centered, give or take, which is about that, and simply drill it in position. Now I just push those screws in a bit more, and what you've got to make certain of is that the screw heads themselves are countersunk, so that means it's below the surface of the wall. As you can see there, it doesn't have to be a lot down, just a little bit, so that we can plaster over the top and cover it. Now all that's left is popping in the piece of plaster to make certain it fits. So it sits in there fairly reasonable. I'll pop a couple of screws to hold it in place. Maybe one about there. Now I haven't put it right through, I'm only popping a little bit in at the moment, same on the other side, and I'll screw it in a second. And check that side. So again, all we're doing is just screwing in below the surface of the actual plasterboard. As long as that's fairly flat, which it appears to be, we're ready for the next stage. Now this one is, the Spakfilla is already pre-mixed, so you don't have to worry about mixing it, but you can mix your own if you prefer to do your own plaster. It's not an issue. And just force it well and truly into the actual holes itself. Make certain you get plenty in there. And I'll put the camera in a really awkward spot. Oh well, not to worry. And basically the idea is you fill up those little gaps and force it well and truly into the hole. I will be running another coat over the top and sand it back in probably 20 minutes or so. Now, roughly 30 minutes have gone by. What I'm going to do now is just sand over this whole area, just a little bit of wood, a block, some sandpaper. Now that surface is good enough to actually paint over the top as it is, but I'm going to put a skimming surface just to pick up any imperfections. So it's going to be a fairly thickish layer at the moment. Dropping a bit on the ground here. Make certain when you're working that you've got a bit of a drop sheet underneath. That'll do. A bit up there, a bit there. Now I've allowed roughly another half hour has gone by. I've skimmed the surface, and basically all we're going to do now is just simply sand it flat. Now all that's left to do is to grab a cloth, give it a bit of a wipe down, ready for painting. And here we are. I've now finished the repair. As you can see here, it's come up quite nice. The door, if we open it, or close it I should say, it'll hit the wall and it'll put another hole through there. So what I'm going to be doing next is popping this. This is a little doorstop, and hopefully putting this down the bottom, it'll prevent any more holes going in the wall, and that'll be the end of the repair. Thanks for watching.